All right, so here we are rolling in the studio. Plutocracy now, Bridgemon. Heard you have.
What's the long run in terms of the long-term brand of the Democratic Party, and how Bernie Sanders affects that, how Hillary Clinton affects that, what the brand currently is now by region of the country. Bridgemon, you're a Democratic operative.
I'm going to say. I've been called worse. But right now, as it stands, I feel like there's a war going on within the Democratic establishment. And
is this just a Bernie versus Hillary kind of war?
It's a DNC versus, like, Democrats who actually do work.
Oh, so kind of a grassroots
versus establishment. And you know, Bernie Sanders is not necessarily the representative for the grassroots,
gotcha.
Nor is Hillary Clinton the representative for the establishment.
Oh, but she is right now.
Yeah, but I will say that the establishment is doing everything they can to help Hillary Clinton, including breaking some of their own rules. And you know, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is horrible. She needs to be replaced.
Can
we agree on that?
I can agree with you. You and me have agreement.
Okay, we can agree on that.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz needs to retire.
Yeah, exactly.
And she is the chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, basically the corporate body of the Democrats in the United States.
Okay, let me take back what I said. She needs to stop showing up on TV. That's my main problem. Just stop showing up on TV, keep voting, and stop showing up on TV.
I'm not taking it back. She needs to be replaced. And my biggest gripe with the DNC, it's not so much national politics as what they do in local races. And you know, we had.
What do they do in local races?
They come in, they lose, they come in and take over, and they have people who've never been to a particular state come in and tell people who've been living there their whole life how to run campaigns in their states, and they don't build relationships with people who are already existing in that area, and they don't hire people from the area. They hire a bunch of people who they can get to do the work for as cheap as possible.
That's right.
And then they come into a city that the individual does not have any, any relations to that community. So it's not really an emotional tie towards the work that they're doing in that community. And what that person will do, they will come from California or wherever and go to Georgia or Florida or North Carolina, and they will tell people that first and foremost what they gotta do, they gotta come and build relationships. And it takes a while to build relationships, and these people are only given like 9 months from election day to work their campaigns. So you gotta come into a city, build relationships, you gotta find the people who've been doing the work. When a better strategy would be, instead of bringing people in, let's find the people who are already doing the work, already have the connections, have them run the field, and they already know who the people who are donating the money. Let's have these people who are already working on the ground, the people who have worked in the local elections already, let's have them run the state, the Senate races and the gubernatorial races. We had a great candidate in Jason Carter. Jason Carter could have drastically changed the Southern politics, not just some Southern Democratic politics, but with the opportunity we had in Jason Carter, it was wasted because we had people telling him to pretend to be somebody that he wasn't. We had people going out to thrift stores to find old cowboy boots so it looks like Jason is a hard-working rancher when he lives in Emmett Park. And
so this is becoming a conversation about the DNC then.
It's not necessarily. Well, it's the brand of the Democratic Party, and the DNC represents that brand.
But do you think most people, when they think about Democrats, they think about, the DNC, they're the reason Jason Carter didn't win, and they always screw up people's elections?
Most people don't think about things the way we do in regards to politics.
Well, yeah, I know. Right. I just didn't.
So that's a little bit of an insider's take, I guess. Yeah. And then from the outside, though, what about the outside perception of, I guess, the brand and in terms of what the general public thinks? Because, I mean, right now, with the Democratic race, I kind of think there's there's not really. I don't think there is a soul to the Democratic Party. I think
there's a war for it.
It's a little bit soulless, and whereas Hillary Clinton.
We're trying. Some of us are trying to give it a soul, but it doesn't want it. It does not want that soul.
You know what question best? Okay, go ahead.
To me, Hillary Clinton is a Democrat, but she does not have a soul.
Gee.
However, Bernie Sanders has a soul. However, he is not a Democrat.
Right.
So,
but why is he not a Democrat? Is it because the Democratic Party lost its soul to big money in politics, to the revolving door?
I'm sympathetic to that claim.
I'm not going to say... when has the Democratic Party not always had a relationship with, big business? And
I mean, it's always existed. But
in the 1970s was kind of a
the Democratic
point.
Party, pretty much always, it's supposed to be the party of the working class, right?
All right.
Republicans the party of the business class, and the way race intersected with all that has switched around things a lot in this country. That's still it's stayed true. It's supposed to be true, but you look around and too many of these policies are just like Republican light, and you won't see people fighting for what the soul of the Democratic Party is. People will say, "Oh no, that's not possible. Don't try to do that. We can't fight for that," even though we will get farther if we fight for that and settle for more than you're asking in the first place.
You got a lot of people who are considered extremists who do go in hard. You have the Alan Graysons, and on the local level, you have Vincent Ford.
Of course, they both did endorse Hillary at first, and then took it back, right?
I see. Fort's not endorsing Hillary?
Yeah, no, Fort changed.
What? Are you fucking with me? Dude, he's marching with us on Saturday,
He just changed
He's marching with us on Saturday. I went drinking with him the other night.
I would argue that had something more to do with Kasim Reed than anything else.
It does. As soon as that happened, I was like, he's flipping. I was like, Fort's coming over.
That has everything to do with Kasim Reed.
I was like, thanks for coming over to the light, man. He's like,
and that's everything to do with Kasim. But
how could you explain that? So Georgia Senator Fort and then Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed.
And that's an embodiment. That's a skirmish of this fight.
Kasim Reed pissed off Fort, then he would go. I don't understand. What's the connection there?
So since Kasim Reed has been mayor, the relationship between him and Senator Fort has been strained because, first and foremost, because of Occupy. There was that, and then secondly, beyond that, there has been a lot of local fights that have been issued. He didn't support the stadium. He didn't support the closing of
Vincent Fort didn't support the stadium.
He didn't support the closing of Peach and Pine. It's a lot of...
And Mayor Reed is behind that.
Right. And a lot of his policy issues that he's been put forth, Senator Fort has been there to stand in
Kasim Reed had him arrested at Occupy. Yeah. He had him arrested.
He had a lot of people arrested.
Yeah, you were
Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah,
Or Occupy Atlanta, I should say.
Yeah.
And, what Kasim Reed said about Vincent Fort, that wasn't right, it wasn't fair, it was wrong. And
what did he say about it?
Yeah, what did he say?
He called him like...
He said he's the most pathetic man I've ever met in my life.
Something like that.
He said it was like at a Atlanta Press Club event. And and I think that was not appropriate. And, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Mayor Kasim Reed. And, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for Vincent Fort. He's done a lot of great work, and we're talking about principles of the Democrat, the image of the Democratic Party, its principles. And I would argue that Senator Fort is an individual who represents those ideals. And he's an individual who fought with Governor Barnes to end predatory lending in the state of Georgia. And it actually cost Governor Barnes his election.
You think it was that, not the flag?
It was there was a
because Roy Barnes changed the flag from the Confederate symbol to the old Georgia flag. I thought that was the biggest reason people thought he lost.
That and the banks put up a lot of money to go against him once he was talking about the predatory lending.
I never heard that as a secondary reason. I heard the secondary reason as being that Roy Barnes did education reforms that the teachers unions didn't like, so he lost their support, and then he lost the support of I don't know what you'd call the people that support the Confederate symbol being on the state, but I guess people that aren't sympathetic to how it makes other people feel.
Millers of the state, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and that goes,
Zell Miller wanted to change it, and then he didn't because he saw how politically unpopular it would be.
Right, and you know that goes to back to.
So what is this fight then?
The fight is for realism
racial
and
equality.
not just that, but idealism versus realism, and that's what I think is embodied in Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders.
I think that's where you.
I disagree with that.
Well,
I mean, I feel like we've wound up debating more about the image of the Democratic Party overall, and so like we should do another segment on Sanders versus Clinton. But on the image of the Democratic Party overall, something that does concern me is that you've got all these working class, primarily white, but working class families that you would think should be attracted to the Democratic Party. That in terms of their own interests, they should be attracted to the Democratic Party. In terms of looking at other countries. And who people in the other countries, other democracies support, it would make sense that they should support the Democratic Party, and yet they don't. They don't see Democrats as being on their side. They see Republicans as being the party that they can more or less trust. And I wonder what Democrats can do to win them over.
The Republican Party over the last 20 years has done a tremendous job of demonizing the Democratic Party. Like, for instance, if you look at the amount of people who consider themselves to be liberals in America, it has decreased over the years because...
No, it's not.
Yeah, it has. And you know why?
I can pull that up right now.
Well, pull it up. Like, I can tell you why it's decreased.
The number of people who call themselves Democrats is...
No, not Democrats, the liberals.
Let's talk about...
Liberals. I'm talking about liberals with an L. Those same people who used to recognize... People who used to recognize themselves as liberals...
No, I'm talking about...
Now are more likely to call themselves progressives as opposed to liberals.
What's wrong with your Wi-Fi?
It's not. It is acting funny, but
I'm not
that word liberal has been used as such a derogatory term by the right that so many people who are liberals themselves don't even want to identify with that terminology.
Here, just look up Gallup liberal conservative.
A record number of Americans.
Sorry, Ridgemont, I wasn't listening to you.
I know you weren't, but it's recorded. The people are.
Well, I think the problem is that Democrats are nothing but a bunch of baby killers who want to take my guns, and so I can't protect my family.
Well, see,
that's definitely a part of it. There's definitely some people that just are against Democrats for that reason, but there's other people that are like populist and not particularly religious, and it doesn't add up to me.
Let's drop these facts. So, 1992. No, all right. 1995 was a rock bottom for self-described liberal percentage, but in 2015 Gallup survey, liberalism reached people who self-identify as liberal reached a record 24% of Americans. So, but 38 call themselves conservative. But the gap is the smallest it's been in 23 years.
It's on the rise.
So liberalism is on the rise.
And just as liberalism is getting healthy,
now is the chance for the Democratic Party to make the right choice about its soul. Does it want one, or does it want to continue just being a money-fueled
the soul of a party
machine?
is not identified by who the president of the United States is.
But here's the reality. Look,
Obama's the soul.
Yeah, he's not. He's not the soul of the Democratic Party. I don't consider
Compare what's going on with Democrats, what's going on
with
with the Republican Party. I mean, the Republicans definitely don't have a soul of that party. They're so divided. They have no idea what they want.
Okay, here we go. The Hillary supporter is just like, but look at Republicans. Look how bad they're. Let's talk about the Democratic Party.
Oh, no.
We don't have to look at the low bar the Republicans set. And
all right, well, then we need to do...
I want to ask the question, though. Is a soul even useful for a political party, or is money more useful? Because Goldman Sachs is definitely bringing in the checks.
Does the soul even exist?
It depends on what you want. I mean, do you want that party to actually represent the working class and then be surprised why you don't win the votes from the working class?
All right, we've got to talk about how Bernie and Hillary are affecting the soul of the Democratic Party.
And I'll tell you what I don't want the soul of the Republican Party to be.
Republican.
I don't want it to be Hillary Clinton's soul. Because when I see her smile, I get angry. And it's part of it is that I feel like she's insulting my intelligence. Because when I look, I know I see a fake smile. You know, doesn't it hurt?
That's one thing I don't ever touch on because it seems like a low blow. But she does. She does seem really fake. Do you not?
Doesn't her smile?
I really like O'Malley too, but like on the stage with the two of them, and Bernie was the only one who seemed like a real person. They both came off like bad actors, but
honestly,
Hillary was
I think her main problem is that she's a woman who's trying to gain power, and just the psychology of both men and women when we see that is to immediately become suspicious.
She's almost forced to be somebody that she's not.
I think that's a little low. What do you, Brian?
I think you're just a sexist.
I'm not.
Brian even married a woman.
I think you're both sexist.
No. I mean, women can be great leaders just as much as men.
But it's not. Look, my mom thinks the same thing. My mom doesn't care about politics. She's like she doesn't give a shit at all. She's yuppie. She's nice, but she does not trust Hillary.
Hi, Scott's mom.
Shout out to my mom.
I would love for Elizabeth Warren to be out there, fighting that kind of working class battle that I don't feel Hillary Clinton is.
The problem is she's so
fighting.
rich. She can't be a Bernie. She can't have the kind of credibility that Bernie has because she's really rich, even though she's. I think she's in the plutocratic class, but she's on our side.
What we've seen in other countries is the same thing. When a woman is running for power, we immediately start wondering, why is she being so ambitious? It looks bad, but once she gets into the position of power, then everything changes and people don't see it that way
And I will
anymore.
say, I've actually met Hillary Clinton. Anybody else met her in real life before? Anybody else? Well, when I met her,
name dropping over here.
When I met Hillary Clinton in real life, for the 2 minute, I had a 2-minute conversation with her briefly, and she was very, very real and down to earth, and I was somewhat surprised. I thought she was going to be more scripted, but she was kind of taken back, and I actually felt like I was talking to. I almost forgot she was Hillary Clinton because of.
So there's a real person in there somewhere.
I mean,
I wouldn't deny that she's smart and that maybe there's a real person somewhere in there.
I mean,
so
but she's got so many people.
When was this?
This was when she came to Clark, Atlanta, when the Black Lives Matter people interrupted her speech, and she handled it so well. It was like very professional. She didn't demean them or anything. And I said that, and when I said that, I was like, I like how you handled that situation. She was like, well, thank you very much. Yeah, that means a lot coming from.
If you say that, it's, you don't challenge her at all. Of course, she seemed very. She really liked when I complimented her. She didn't seem fake at all.
Yeah.
But I didn't even think she heard me. It was like kind of odd. Like she heard me say that. And she turned around. She's like, who said that? Oh yeah. And she sat down and started talking to me, and she was like cool as hell. And I mean, I think she had me then.
I've heard that from a lot of people, though, that she's like really cool behind the scenes, really nice person to talk to. Right. And I think she's really good at one-on-one interviews. She just doesn't look that good on the stump when she's giving a speech. That's to me when she comes off as unlikable and I don't know, shrill.
And she has so many people telling her what to say, how to act, how to look, how to smile, and it is scripted. I mean, but she's listening. She's listening to the advice of people that are around her,
and that's why she does so good at debates. I don't think it's.
I mean, she doesn't do any better than Bernie does. To me, I've watched
the
debates,
but it's totally different calculus involved with each. I mean, obviously she's way more scripted and Bernie's way more loose, but tries to tighten himself. But he's not. He's not.
I actually disagree. I think Bernie's the one that's more scripted. He's the one that keeps pulling it back to the same one or two issues, and she's the one that whatever you throw at her, she's able to dance around it. She knows the issue. She knows how to handle it.
And Bernie, he has his talking points down because he can bring any damn subject back to economic inequality. Yeah. And then he's like, so what's your favorite type of soup? Well, let me tell you, when I was a young kid, everybody didn't have the kind of soup. And he always has a way of bringing it back.
We only drink the soup that the billionaires want us to drink.
And he has that way of whatever and that's the best sign of a quote unquote politician. That's the most political thing that you can do is revert back to your talking points.
Yeah. It's like Rudy Giuliani with 9/11.
And he does it so well.
Here's the thing, though. I think Bernie is doing it on purpose. Because I've seen, if you look at longer, especially older interviews with Bernie, he can do all that. But I think he's doing that very much on purpose. We know he can think about these things. We know he thinks more on foreign policy than he says in the debates. I mean, are you going to deny that? Or not?
I'm not going to deny that.
Who is his foreign policy advisor? That's what I want to know.
He's given some more speeches and addresses lately on foreign policy. He's not that. I mean, I think he's a relatively trustworthy guy on foreign policy.
What does his cabinet look like? His foreign policy. Who's the Secretary of State in the Bernie Sanders administration?
I mean, Hillary Clinton hasn't answered that question either. You know what I mean?
Hillary Clinton's Joint Chiefs of Staff is going to look like compared to Bernie Sanders? I mean,
and she's gonna have a bunch of warmongers there, from defense industry approved, ready to.
Jamie Dimon.
I don't. Oh,
Jamie
God.
Dimon. Joint Chiefs of Staff.
But here's,
and she pointed out, like, look at this. Hold on, this really is like the soul of the Democratic Party. We're getting off topic, trying to talk about their image and stuff, but like, you know, Brian, we're still right. She's fake as hell. I'm sorry. Like, she just doesn't come off as real. It doesn't seem like, I don't think she cares. I don't know if she's been in politics too long. She's got so jaded or what, but it seems like deep down, you know, it's not just me, it's a lot of the country. You look at the polls, people don't trust Hillary.
No, like, she definitely cares a lot. It's unfortunate that people don't they don't like her more, but here's the thing. Right now, the Democratic Party is
like,
having
when
a
you
battle.
point out, when you're talking about foreign policy and you're saying you're a progressive, or you're running for the Democratic Party, and then you point out, like, Henry Kissinger is...
All right, yeah,
then,
the Henry Kissinger thing, Hillary Clinton...
All right, and then, like, that's just... There's just things that she says in debates.
And Bernie Sanders did a really good job at taking advantage.
Did you know that Henry Kissinger is one of Obama's top advisors on foreign policy right now to this day?
What?
I believe
no.
that too.
Yes. Yes.
No, I don't believe that.
Look it up. I mean, he's not official in cabinet or anything, but he's a foreign policy advisor. He goes to Barack Obama.
Do you mean he's given a couple of phone calls, or that he's actually calling this guy
hey man, what do you think I should do about this ISIS situation?
Yeah, I don't buy
Got someone else for you.
Yeah. He would have to be doing more.
But I mean, there's other things, like things she'll do during debates too. That was one. Another one was when she was talking about basically her, you know, international negotiating resume, and she brought up COP15 as like a success. But anyone who knows anything about, you know, climate change and politics at all, that was the biggest.
When she was getting shot at in the hood, with her black constituents that she's so good with.
We're talking about the Paris. I know, yeah, I know. But with the Paris stuff, I mean that is something.
So I mean, and that's how do you, if you really care about it, how do you I can't make that work in my mind. Make that work for me, because you know climate change is like a number 1 or number 2 issue for me, because I think we got to deal with that.
It's my number 1 issue. It's the only issue that I put higher than campaign finance.
That's not funny.
No, I mean it is, and what it's going to require for the next president is being able to negotiate with other countries to bring down carbon dioxide levels, and
that's
having
why
the
we
EPA
need Trump.
It's not about negotiating. If you look at him, we need to action. We need to do shit. We need to the next president needs to go as far as the Supreme Court, which they will get to help choose the makeup of, will let them. We need to know that the next president will go as far as they possibly can legally and push beyond that bound, so the court has to push it back and say this is as far
the legal bounds.
Oh, no.
Did you just say push it beyond the legal bounds?
Yeah, welcome to the law, because that's exactly what happened with his Clean Power Plan. Mm-hmm. Like, that shit would probably get shot. That shit might get shot down if Scalia didn't die. But that changes the whole calculus with.
It was only the method, not the overall logic of bringing down carbon dioxide was in, because the Supreme Court already said they could bring down carbon dioxide levels. But here's the thing: the Democratic Party is in a fight for its soul right now. And since at least Franklin Roosevelt, I'm going to say, at least Franklin Roosevelt, the Democratic Party, the soul of the Democratic Party, even during the Bill Clinton years, was liberalism. We were a liberal party. We believed in individual freedom. We believed in a government that would help to pay for things such as healthcare and education.
And you said even in the Bill Clinton era?
You said since Roosevelt, right?
Since Franklin Roosevelt.
When Roosevelt was coming up with those New Deal proposals, guess what people called him?
I mean, people called him a socialist as an insult, in the same way that they called Barack Obama a socialist. That doesn't make it true. The other thing that's also the case is Franklin Roosevelt was running against socialists who wanted to nationalize industries, who had a whole different set of priorities than what Franklin Roosevelt did. He protected and strengthened capitalism. He regulated markets. He didn't get rid of them. He regulated the financial system. He didn't get rid of that or nationalize that.
I don't hear Bernie saying he
created
wants to
Social
get rid
Security.
Of, and I will say this: I have a tremendous amount of respect for Bernie Sanders. I'm not going to demonize him. I think he would make a fine president, but this whole idea that he's some insane, crazy, drastic socialist.
I'm not making that argument.
But a lot of people are. And it kind of seems like
you're talking like apocalyptic terms about Bernie Sanders' presidency sometimes.
No.
And I don't know what you're fearing, because you'll cite these things that he said 40 years ago, and then
just as a point, the Republicans will bring them up. That's my only issue with that. But here's the deal: he's a democratic socialist. The programs that he wants are not radical in the sense that These things have been done in other countries. We've seen this. Canada has single-payer healthcare, for instance. Britain has single-payer healthcare. There's countries that have free college education for everybody, where the government has centralized power and is making all the decisions in regards to college education in terms of quality, rationing, everything. So we could do that. Other countries have done it. But we can also look at other countries and learn from their example and not follow them in their mistakes and not create these systems that are so centered in power so that it's the government that's making all the decisions for healthcare and all the decisions
we gotta
for
go
college education.
Right. But the thing is, you got to look at it. Look, if you want to preserve capitalism, you have to take it seriously. You have to, like, capitalism runs on incentives. That's how humans behave in a capitalist system. They run on the incentives, no matter how... people wanted to, talk down the financial crisis to, like, irrational, exuberant, but it was totally rational. If you look at every player in the game, it was completely rational. It was just a criminal system. The whole system was unstable the way it was set up. But everyone was acting very rationally in that system. And so if you look at the incentives of certain industries, healthcare being one, the incentives just do not line up. Like, you always bring up bullshit about pharmaceutical companies, having to make insane profits so they can pay for, research and development. But the reality is they spend, some of them spend twice as much on marketing than they do on fucking research and development. Like, there's tons of...
I'm really open-minded to reforming the pharmaceutical sector, reforming other areas. But the idea of taking out a pluralistic payer system and taking away a system where you've got doctors and drug companies and hospitals,
you use that as a reason,
insurance companies that are negotiating against each other, and consumers that are negotiating with all that in terms of what the prices are.
But look at the root incentives. Like, look at how
you would be centering all of that in Washington, D.C.
How do you make people being healthy, not necessarily taking pills, going to the doctors, getting surgeries and checkups they don't need, but being healthy, staying healthy, and getting good treatment? How do you make that in itself financially rewarding, especially in this system?
And I do agree with it. It's disgusting. And it's certain things shouldn't be for profit.
Like prison education,
and healthcare,
military, and energy production in the 21st century because of global warming.
I'm not going to say energy production, but
because this guy doesn't care about global warming. Let's talk about that. Why?
Why should energy production be private? Why shouldn't it be state ran?
Okay, I don't think the incentives are messed up, but I don't think it should be. I don't think it needs to be nationalized. But I think the government. We need heavy government intervention.
They need heavy government regulation. I wouldn't say
either way. That's the same thing. What's the difference?
Heavy government subsidization
regulation. I'll take it.
Of
subsidization and regulation.
Yeah, but I just want to point out everything that you guys just said already exists. Subsidizing of clean energy, regulation
we should do a lot
energy,
more.
including Georgia Power, for instance, is heavily regulated. It's heavily regulated by people they pay.
Right.
But it that's if we didn't have plutocracy, that wouldn't be a problem. And then what you mentioned earlier with healthcare companies or hospitals, for instance, being paid for what they're doing in terms of quality and not for service, that's something that Medicare is already in the process of changing. That's a part of the Affordable Care Act. So these things are already
So Medicare is doing that, but why is Medicare doing that?
Medicare is leading the way on it.
And some private insurers, I think, do that, but
if private insurers don't translate over to it, then I'd agree with the reform that changed it.
So we're going to have to just wait another, how long, 10 years, 20 years and see?
Whenever it can be done next.
When it's politically possible.
It'll happen before single payer.
Politically possible. You have to look at the makeup of what you're dealing with.
But here's a part of the problem, because earlier Bridgman said that this is a battle between idealism and pragmatism,
which I disagree with.
I strongly disagree.
Can we have that?
I'm gonna simplify this a little bit. There's a good article here, The Nation, back in July 2015. And it's talking about the real battle for the soul of the Democratic Party. They say it's not between Clinton and Sanders, but rather they use the example of New York and say it's between Cuomo and Bill de Blasio. Whereas Cuomo is essentially a darling of the super rich, de Blasio is actually fighting inequality. And so I would say if there is a battle for the Democratic Party right now, it would be those that actually want to use the Democratic Party as a vehicle for reducing inequality in the United States and want to, reduce economic inequality versus maybe the old guard, the establishment, the connected, the donor class, the super rich, who have used the Democratic Party to serve their own financial interests. And that, probably as I see it and as The Nation describes it, is the authentic and perhaps real tension that the Democratic Party may be feeling
grassroots establishment.
I don't think de Blasio is so disconnected from that, though. I just think he's not as embedded with it.
Not as embedded.
But yeah, I mean,
he's the mayor of arguably he's New York City is, if anywhere on the planet Earth it can be considered a city-state, I think New York is a place really that you can really consider an actual city-state.
Here's a reality. Like I always, like you guys are always involved in like state and local politics. You always give people shit during presidential election times, like, oh, people only give a shit, you gotta give a shit about local and state. But the reality is, like, if you look at the psychology of us, and especially in America, maybe just as humans, but especially in America, we care the most when it's like a presidential election, when it's presidential and national politics.
When it's the least amount of impact on your damn life. A decision made. You haven't even started feeling Obama's damn.
Not true. I have had. I'm not gonna talk. My girlfriend's only here legally because of Obama's executive actions.
I understand
that changed my life, her life, all kinds of shit.
And I got uncles that are out of prison right now because of Obama's.
But that shit doesn't make any money. The thing is, that sets the whole climate, dude. That's the whole political climate. And you have to, like, you can keep denying but that's not going to change how people behave.
But when my school board makes a decision as to what school my child is going to go to, that's an immediate decision that I feel instantly.
If the qualities of those two schools differ.
Right, exactly. Now, or if my county commission proposes we're not going to be able to repave these roads this week. And guess what? I run over a pothole, fuck up my rims. I gotta get I gotta dish out money to fix my tires. Guess what? That's an immediate impact that I feel. I mean, a decision made in Washington takes time to trickle down to you.
Out, no one's, you don't see people.
That's why the road's so fucked up.
I know, because people go to Walmart with like Trump slogans written on their T-shirt in Sharpie. Yeah. They don't do it saying no potholes, but like written in Sharpie. They don't get that word. You don't see people writing, people don't. This is the reality. Like, you can argue with it as much as you want, but do you guys deny this? I mean, just looking at people.
And also you blame Obama for the potholes that you didn't vote for the guy who could have fixed your potholes, but you're gonna blame Obama for that shit. So, what kills me, like, when you have, like, the state representatives do a town hall and a bunch of people come in and bitch about Medicaid and all these national issues. And
you're just proving my point.
And it's like so sad because these people out here trying to do a good job, and people are so fucking pissed off. What you
gonna do about the illegals?
Yeah, they're like, What you want to know about Grady Hospital? Or
But I agree with the point that came from Brian's article from The Nation. I do think that there is a battle in the Democratic Party between people that actually want to help out and people that are more trying to mooch with the rich. And I don't think that Bernie versus Hillary represents that at all. Because, I mean, here's the thing. Like, what we need right now is...
Just look at the campaign contributions and you'll see that it's not that.
Are so high that it's like we're going through a second Gilded Age right now.
I just want to see the transcripts. What does she really think about Goldman Sachs when they're paying her $200,000 an hour?
Anyway, if you look at how high income inequality levels are right now, it's like we're going through the second Gilded Age, and we need some kind of progressive revolution to happen.
Maybe the wife of the guy that caused the crisis that crashed the middle class.
Income inequality levels, and where we're able to come in and put so much money into people's health insurance that it's cheap and really cheap for everybody to be able to afford it, and that we put so much money into colleges so that colleges can pull down college tuition prices so that you don't have people that are starting off their life, 22, 23 years old with $40,000, $50,000 of student debt. We need that revolution to happen. And Bernie Sanders is a false prophet. He doesn't.
Hillary is the revolution.
Well, that's the thing. Like he wants to put more money.
Prophet?
Hillary Clinton's the real prophet.
Sorry, but Bernie Sanders the false prophet?
Because Bernie Sanders doesn't merely just want to put more money into those programs. He wants to control and cap those programs in a way that would be damaging to quality, in a way that would have the federal government rationing these things.
You sound so Republican. Like, explain this. Get it? Like,
but here's the thing. This may sound strange.
You look at global surveys. Hold on. You look at global surveys. The UK still comes out on top. I think it's believed the Commonwealth Fund. They look at this. There's other surveys. These surveys aren't perfect. But the UK still gets really high marks on the quality of its healthcare system, despite the fact that it's rationed by the government. So for you to make this kind of
imagine
cause
if
and
they made
effect
improvements-
argument,
yeah, like-
I'm not going to go along with
I mean,
it.
I was
I've
reading an
only
article in
seen
the
one
Beast.
ranking that had them that high. Usually they're ranked really low. There was one ranking that had them first, but other rankings, including the World Health Organization, put them pretty low compared to other developed countries.
And
the countries that get ranked higher, like France, like Italy, these are countries that do not have single-payer programs. We need a public-private system in the United States.
And I am more for a public-private system. I'm not saying that we should abolish Medicaid and abolish private healthcare insurance companies.
One other thing
in Germany and Japan, they manage just fine with this with private insurance companies, and they spend a lot less per GDP. And I think nobody talks about it, but it's called an all-payer system. This is what Japan uses. It's what I think the United States should use, where no matter if you're Medicaid, Medicare, or private insurance, if you go and you break your arm and you need an x-ray and a cast, well, there's one price for the cast, there's one price for the x-ray, and that's the x-ray that's the price that Medicaid pays or Medicare or private insurance pays, no matter where you are in the country. Of course, you could have a little bit of a cost of living adjustment, but in Japan, they set the price for every treatment, like throughout the nation. But here in the United States, Medicaid doesn't pay that much, or Medicare reimburses this much, or private healthcare reimburses this much. But it would be a much simpler system if, we could leave all these people, all these payers. We don't need just one single payer, but it would be very good to have one price. And that's what you call an all-payer system, where all payers have one price, one fee schedule that they use. And that would be a great way, I think, to simplify the system.
That does sound like an interesting idea. Scott, on your question about healthcare, I don't remember what you asked me.
I don't either, man.
Yeah.
But
it was something that totally was like,
But you were saying why, Joey, why you believe he's a false prophet, why Bernie Sanders is a false prophet. And you basically said that, he's going to cap and control and decrease the quality. And, I kind of used an example, a kind of argument there with the UK health system. And I guess I didn't find any meat on your bones of why Sanders is the false prophet.
Well, look, Scott, I think, made a really good point when he said you're sounding like a Republican, because Republicans used to say rationing and government takeover. But here's the thing.
Used to.
But here's the thing. Republicans were just lying. They were outright lying about Obamacare front to back. They said that it was going to fail. They said it was a government takeover. Everything they said was totally false. Single payer would actually be a government takeover of healthcare.
Health insurance.
And healthcare. When you're a single payer, the point in a single payer is that you are the monopsony. You have all the power in that case. You'd be putting all of that into the government. They get to call all of the shots. That's something that I don't think is very liberal.
And look, if we're gonna get down prices, you have to have a negotiating point. We're not gonna get that as long as we have health insurance companies like running everything. Like we have, and look, there would still be some private health insurance companies for the rich, but like.
I don't want to create a two-tiered system where the rich are going and getting better health care, and I don't want to create a system that squeezes out all the money.
We already have that. We have one where poor people just die. Yeah. There's no poor people getting any health care. I have health insurance and don't go to the doctor.
You're making an argument against the current health insurance
system. I work
system.
at a healthcare facility.
I see poor people
getting
I don't support the current health insurance system.
Just say.
I want a health insurance system that is overwhelmingly funded
like 40,000 people a year
overwhelmingly funded by
methodologically
the
Institute of Medicine
everyone's
study
able
was
to
better.
afford it.
That was 18,000 a year.
18,000 a year die. So that's all right. I mean, all right.
So you say
just 18,000 poor people.
You work in medicine. You said you work in medicine and you see poor people get
and the thing is, our system still ends up paying for that.
Do they get good health care? Do they get
that? Or do they come when they have an emergency and when they have something that they could have prevented long ago for a lot cheaper if they would have had access to a primary care doctor? Now they're dealing with it in the emergency room when it's about to kill them.
Do they get
we're paying for it?
Real preventative measures, or is it just?
No, I mean, real preventative measures look no farther than Cuba. Cuba has a healthcare system based on prevention, and they have a great life expectancy, and they spend pennies on the dollar compared to what the United States does. The United States really doesn't pay for prevention. In Cuba, people go around, the doctors go around making house visits all the time, checking people's blood pressure. It's really about prevention. I really would like to see more of that in the United States, but What was the other question?
But
no, I do see. I saw a economically disadvantaged person today getting, they're going right to the operating room because that's what they need to get the best treatment, and they needed it, and that's where they were going to go. I saw that today. So.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Should have died on the street.
Forced to do that. No. Terrible. They had to do that. That they didn't already have health insurance.
Sure, no.
They still wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't go in for surgery. I got health insurance. It don't fucking help.
I have health insurance. I got full coverage, and I haven't been to the damn doctor since I've had it.
Oh man.
I haven't been to the dentist yet. I need to go to the dentist. And copay on clean.
I still want to hear. What's this false prophet? Like that's a strong claim, but like.
Sorry, Joey's still thinking about it. He's
coming up with something.
Yeah,
Give him a minute.
He's thinking about it.
No, I think I've made all the points. I mean, if you guys aren't getting it, you can let me know how.
Yeah. I guess I just don't see the
And
wisdom.
first off, right.
Agree to disagree.
Like I was saying about the larger strategy of the Democratic Party negotiating, like if you start at single payer, like you can't ask for much more than that. So when you go to Congress fighting for single payer, you can push that down and maybe go for a public option, to get the votes instead of starting with, hey, we'll start with public option, and then it's like, oh well, Democrats, progressive Democrats deal with it. We're cutting that because we're going to push this through, and we're going to get loopholes. We're going to get health insurance lobbyists on this for, a year. And then, and then we'll make it, approvable for the health insurance industry. We'll push that through. Like, no, we need to fight. We need to look at our ideals and fight for those and then be practical after we say this is what we want and focus on what we actually want and not give up so much that, like with Obamacare, I mean, it did some good, but
a lot of good.
I think because one of the things is once you make it illegal, once you tax people for not having health insurance and then brag about how many people have health insurance, like, health insurance, and as we've just talked about, it's not health care. Health insurance does not equal health care. A lot of us have health insurance and do not have health care or access to affordable health care, and that is still a huge problem. I know some people who've been helped massively by Obamacare, but like, it didn't solve the root of the problem. It didn't solve the cost problems. It didn't solve the access problems.
It lays out a structure so that we can create a universal system where healthcare is incredibly cheap for everybody.
Incredibly cheap.
It sounds like there will be a glorious future.
We are still
2100 when we have robot
by
maids
far
and
GDP per capita, and with no credible prediction that that's going to change. So
but keep in mind,
more honey off the lips, but
So I said this earlier, but I'm not sure that you guys were listening.
It's poop out of the anus when you analyze the quality.
So we should be paying for health insurance costs in this country overwhelmingly through our tax dollars. That is something that needs to be a national responsibility, just like it is in most other countries where the federal government is paying for the overwhelming amount of it, and you've got a little bit left that people are paying for like individual stuff, and that's it. Mm-hmm. It should be very, very cheap. We need a economic and political revolution in this country along those terms. We need that to happen for colleges too. We need that to happen for a number of issues, especially for campaign finance reform, but not with Bernie Sanders' ideas.
Right,
his ideas to solve it are the wrong ones.
But how are you? No one else has ideas to get to those places. Like what? You're not.
I mean, Hillary Clinton has ideas to get to those places. She just doesn't. She's just watered them down because she doesn't think that she's going to get the bigger ideas passed.
Which is part of what I keep saying is the freaking problem. Like, I mean, for one, you're not going to inspire an electorate to vote for you when you say, this is the best we can get passed, better than Republicans, lesser of two evils, 2016, let's do it again.
Okay.
And then you're surprised why especially in the midterms, but even like the country, we got a record number of liberals, but like we should have more, Democratic. For one, on the national level, there should be more Democratic representation. Like that's missing. Even probably in the presidential, there should be a lot more people, working class, poor people who should be voting for their interests in the Democratic Party. Why aren't they? Because they aren't inspired to. Because they don't trust these people who've been embedded with the establishment. People who are worth $50 million, who have lives that are completely different than their lives, and who don't know anything about their struggles anymore because they've spent decades so disconnected from it and embedded in this world of, advisors and fundraisers and Goldman Sachs speeches, and like that's not the world we live in. They don't know, like politicians learning about poverty sometimes, it's funny just when they see it on the ground. It's like a shock to them. It's like, no, this is how people live in America. But the plutocratic class they have a different country.